What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. So I've been kind of putting this video off for a little bit, but now I'm finally getting to work on this video. But at the time I record this video right now, it's been about a week since I've attended New York Comic Con. And so kind of like with my MegaCon Orlando video I did a few months ago, I simply just want to talk about my experience attending this convention. So it's not so much a here's what to do at New York Comic Con. It's more like, this is what I did, this is what I thought about it, this is, how my experience overall was like. And so this is kind of special for me because this is actually my very first time ever attending New York Comic Con. I've always wanted to go to this convention for a long time, but with college and the fact that getting passes can be pretty hard, did get in the way of that. But I've been out of school for some time now, and this year I was able to get passes pretty comfortably, so that's awesome. So as far as what I ended up doing at the convention itself, I'll kind of go into a little bit of detail from like each single day. So Thursday wasn't anything too crazy. I spent a good chunk of that day kind of exploring the entire building itself because it was held at the Javits Center in New York, obviously. But since I had never been to the convention itself, I spent a good chunk of Thursday just exploring the entire building, knowing where everything was, so that in the ongoing days, I get a better feeling for where everything is, where to go and whatnot. And so because of that, on Thursday I just went casual, so I didn't cosplay or anything like that, because I did cosplay for most of this convention. And so I'll show some like B-roll right here of how the convention center looked like. The only other thing I really did on Thursday was attend one of the panels they had. Which is the only panel I did there was the Blumfest panel, which is basically an entire panel about the production company Blumhouse, where the CEO of Blumhouse, Jason Blum, was actually there, just talking about what it's like for him, finding this company and just working on all the films that he's been a part of. But also that panel was promoting the Finance of Freddy's movie that was coming out soon, actually. And so, as a matter of fact, actually, when you walked into the room where the panel was taking part in, actually, or taking place in, I should say, my bad, they actually gave out these like pizza boxes, actually, that were themed off of the movie itself. Actually, you can see right here of me grabbing one. Now, unfortunately, I ended up putting that away because I was kind of worried that I wasn't gonna be able to comfortably bring it back with me to my hotel, or just bring it back on my luggage when I fly back home. I was worried about it getting crushed or just something happening to it. And so I ended up putting it away, unfortunately. I would have liked to keep that, honestly. But yeah, they were giving out those because, like I said, they were promoting, most of that panel, they were promoting the upcoming Finance of Freddy's movie. And so that was a pretty cool panel to be a part of, because Blumhouse is a production company that I've kind of followed for some time now, because, I like most of their films. They've had some not so great films, admittedly, but I like most of their content for the most part. So that's kind of how Thursday was for me. So now on to Friday, or just the rest of the week in general for me, because Friday was initially supposed to be a casual day for me as well. But at the last minute, I decided to cosplay for the rest of the week of the con itself. So I only brought 2 cosplays with me: Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 4 and Rorschach from Watchmen. On Friday and Sunday, I cosplayed Leon from Resident Evil 4, and Saturday I was Rorschach. At the last minute, I decided, let me cosplay for, Leon for Friday as well. And so that was like I said, that was a last minute change for me, but I'm really glad I did, because there was a lot of good cosplays at the rest of the week at the convention. And so now the thing about my cosplay in particular with Leon is my cosplay initially involved 2 props that I would have brought with me. One of them being this fake gun that I have right here. This I've had for a long time. And then one prop that I bought a while ago for my cosplay is this fake tactical knife. It's nothing fancy in particular. It's just one of those cheap rubber knives that you can buy at a Halloween store for like $12. But yeah, as you can see, the blade is bendable. It's surprisingly sharp for a fake knife. But the thing is, at the last minute, I didn't bother bringing my props with me to this convention, because I kept hearing a lot of like feedback from some people attending the con stating that the security staff was going to be so strict this year, to the point where like gun props wouldn't be allowed whatsoever, no matter how fake it looked. That wasn't going to be the case. So I thought, like, let me not go to the trouble of having to bring it with me, and they'll be like, you gotta put that away. So at the last minute, I didn't pack my props with me. That is until I go to the convention and I see plenty of people with gun props perfectly fine. They had the guns that did meet their criteria, such as having an orange tip, no trigger, or like it can't function like one basically. So I go on Friday cosplaying Leon, but without my props. I have my entire cosplay except for my props, and so Friday, the very second I walk, inside the convention, I decided to go to one of the vendors, and I don't remember if I have footage of me. I'll show it to you if I have it. But I decided to go to one of the vendors that was selling a bunch of prop weapons. And so the one I ended up buying from one vendor was this one, a different prop gun, as you can see. Let me show you right there closely. As you can see, it's got an orange tip letting you know that it's fake, and the trigger, it's printed onto the actual, or not really printed, but it's molded into the gun itself. Magazine, it can't eject at all. It's basically a hunk of hard, material basically, so it can't function like one. A lot of the vendors that they have there sell some, they sell the typical stuff that you see at most cons, prop cosplay weapons, clothing based on certain fandoms, mystery boxes, with different merch, posters, fan art, the whole 9 yards, a lot of stuff that you'll typically find in most conventions. Some of the booths that I did check out there, one in particular that stood out for me is a Sonic the Hedgehog booth, actually. Now, with this booth in particular, they actually had 2 TVs and 2 PS5s set up where you can try an early demo of Sonic Superstars, because that was coming out, because that was the weekend before the game was coming out, actually. So basically the way the demo worked was the demo consisted of 4 levels you can try out, as well as a battle mode if you were playing with another person. And you had 15 minutes to play the demo until they had to let the next person go. Because the booths didn't really have a long line, but had a pretty decent amount of people waiting to try out the game. So, they limited the play time to 15 minutes, and then you had to go to the next person. But they did also give out these little, paper fans that are Sonic themed, of course. And as you can see, the Sonic's head there kind of resembles the ice cream bar, so I thought that was pretty interesting. And then the back of the fan actually has, the company's logo. I forgot the name of the company, to be perfectly honest. I'll show footage of it. I'm sure you'll find it there somewhere. And then, of course, Sonic's logo right there, too. So that was one booth that stood out for me at the convention. The other one that's kind of stood out for me, too, was a Spider-Man 2 booth, actually. So because the game was coming out soon as well, even outside of the building, I didn't get footage of it, but outside the building, there was an LED sign that occasionally would show an advertisement for the game itself, actually. And I'll show a picture of, because I went to that booth on Saturday, in particular. And on that day I was cosplaying Rorschach. And so there's that photo. Here's a photo of me at the booth where you can stand in front of these 2 statues of both Peter and Miles. And then behind them is a dark hallway with Venom popping up, actually. It looks pretty cool. But also, apparently, if you showed up at that booth in particular, assuming you're some of the first people that showed up there, they would have given out this giant bag right here. I don't know how well you can tell right there, but yeah. There's this bag that they gave out when you went to the booth itself. So I was able to get one. They had a pretty good amount of these, but eventually they did say they would run out. But as you can see, the giant bag of Spider-Man 2. The back. Let me try to. There we go. Do that. It has the logo of Spider-Man 2 on it, and so it's a nice little bag to have so that if you're buying a lot of merch, you can put it in here comfortably. Later on Friday, I did do one of the after parties they had going on. It took place at a bar that also had ping pong tables and whatnot. I think they had pool tables too, but I don't quite remember. But this party in particular was gaming themed, so they had ping pong tables. They had tables with consoles so you can play fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and they also had some other consoles where you can play Mario Kart, for example. And of course, the main thing to do with that after party is live a DJ playing music and dancing, of course. So I'm gonna be perfectly honest with this party. I'm sure it was a fun party for a lot of people, but for me, I think it was just a little bit of burnout from the day of going to the con. But after about a half hour, I was actually ready to leave because I showed up the second it started. And so, after even just a half hour, I was on the verge of like leaving, but then they started playing Backstreet Boys music. And that was when I was like, yeah, you know what, let me just stay a little bit longer, because now like they're starting to pick up a bit.
Ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why. Ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why. I never wanna hear you say I want it that way.
But even still, I didn't stay at this party for too long just because I was getting tired. And on top of that, I had a bus to catch to go back to my hotel, because even though this convention was taking place in New York, I was staying at a hotel in New Jersey for cost efficient reasons, because I was in this trip completely by myself. And so I was completely on my own to pay for the hotel, to pay for transportation. And so for cost efficient reasons, like I said, I had to stay in New Jersey. And thankfully, my hotel was near a bus stop where it takes you from back and forth from New York to New Jersey. So, I'm glad I was able to save a little bit of money on transportation, because I think an Uber from my hotel to the convention center would have been a good $60, if not more, every single time. So now on to Saturday. Saturday, I cosplayed Rorschach from Watchmen, of course. And I didn't get too many photos, but what I didn't really expect was I got a pretty decent amount of people who were taking photos of my cosplay, actually. And, one thing that stood out for them, at least, was the fact that my mask actually kind of not really shapeshifts, but like the color of the mask like kind of reacts to, because my mask in particular, I don't really know how to really describe it, but it reacts to like the warmth of my breath. So like when I breathe, breathe in and breathe out, like the mask kind of like, the mask patterns kind of like, shapeshift, I guess you could say. I don't really know if that's a really correct term to use, but the mask looks different because it kind of reacts to my breath. The only thing about that costume in particular is that wearing a jacket and wearing a mask, especially in a convention center where the AC is just okay at best, I got hot there pretty quickly. And occasionally I would have to step outside of the building to get some cold air. Now, it did happen to rain a little bit on Saturday, so it was a bit cold outside. But for me, it was fine because I was able to get some really cold air and made my cosplay a lot more tolerable. Most of my Saturday was just walking around the convention again and getting photos. But also, the only other thing I remember doing on Saturday was karaoke at the convention this Saturday, because they did have karaoke. But it was only going on Friday through Saturday of the convention. And so I did sing for Saturday, and I'll show you that clip right now.
All right, testing. So before the song begins, I have a few questions for all of you. How many of you are Sonic the Hedgehog fans? I hope that if you haven't played Sonic Frontiers, I hope this song convinces you.
I love Sonic the Hedgehog. It's like my favorite franchise.
I wear this shirt for the reason.
I'm standing on the border of everything. Listen close, can you hear the spirit sing? Lost messages of long ago.
that was definitely one of my highlights of New York Comic Con this year, was singing that song from Sonic Frontiers at karaoke. Because, you know, as a huge Sonic fan, something I always like to do at conventions when they give me the opportunity is singing Sonic the Hedgehog music. And, you know, I did, you know, the first time I ever did that was at Holiday Matsuri in Orlando, Florida last December, when I sang Undefeatable from Sonic Frontiers. So for New York Comic Con's karaoke, I decided to sing another song from Sonic Frontiers. And I'm thinking of doing a different song from the same game the next time I go to a convention where they do allow me to play that kind of music for karaoke. So that was really fun, and I got a pretty good reaction of everybody, as you probably just saw. So that was definitely fun. So Sunday of New York Comic Con was a relatively chill day, all things considered. You know, I just spent a good chunk of the day getting additional photos with different cosplayers and whatnot. But one thing I didn't really expect to happen, though, was an entire Resident Evil group. And this is where things got a lot more exciting for me personally, because, you know, like I said, I was cosplaying Leon for that particular day. And from, you know, my personal experience, I don't really go to a whole lot of conventions where I see a lot of Resident Evil cosplays. And with New York Comic Con in particular, the vast majority of cosplays you're going to see are based off of Marvel, DC, Star Wars, anime. And, you know, being in October, I saw a decent amount of cosplays from like horror movies and whatnot. But I didn't really see a lot of like, you know, cosplays from other like franchises like video games and whatnot. Now, granted, I wasn't really expecting to see a lot of Resident Evil cosplays in particular, but on Sunday, when I saw an entire group of Resident Evil cosplayers, things got a lot more exciting for me. And of course, I joined it on the group, and so we took some photos of the entire group and whatnot. And we spent like a pretty good amount of time in that spot, you know, getting photos. We were talking to each other for quite a bit. And when people were seeing our entire group, you know, a bunch of people were, you know, gathering around to take photos of our group. And that was a really fun experience, because something I always like seeing at conventions like this is seeing like an entire group of people cosplaying characters from the same franchise, like the same movie, the same TV show, the same, you know, whether it's like an entire group of Marvel or DC or anime cosplays. I like seeing stuff like that, you know. It's kind of cool to see like some people like being like, wow, this looks so cool and whatnot. And so, you know, being able to experience that kind of thing where like a lot of people are taking a bunch of photos of our group, that was a really good feeling, honestly, because it's one of those things where it's like when you cosplay and you get a bunch of people, you know, saying like, wow, your cosplay looks really cool, or wow, I can't believe you're cosplaying this character. I don't see a lot of that. You know, it's a really good feeling and whatnot. I'm sure a lot of you would probably feel the same way if you cosplay at conventions like this. So that to me was definitely one of the highlights of New York Comic Con for me personally. So overall, I can definitely say that for my first time experience in New York Comic Con, I had a lot of fun for the most part, definitely. So I had a really solid time in New York Comic Con in general. You know, I'm sure for a lot of people, you know, their highlights was going to be like, you know, meeting Chris Evans there, meeting Ewan McGregor there, meeting some of the cast of the Guardians of the Galaxy were there. You know, I'm sure for a lot of people, that was definitely one of their biggest highlights. But for me, like, going to this convention definitely reminded me of why I got into cosplay in the first place, because I just love seeing cosplays of characters from franchises that I enjoy. But it's also because of these cosplays that I've, you know, been introduced to a lot of like shows, and especially anime in particular, that I never would have really taken interest in checking out if it wasn't for cosplay, actually. And so for me, the one thing I always look forward to the most with conventions like this is cosplayers, seeing all sorts of different cool cosplays, and just getting to talk to these people as well, because, you know, it's always fun getting to share like with a lot of people why you like these characters so much, why you like the show so much, why you like this movie so much, and just getting to know other shows and movies and games and just other series in general that I never would have found out, like I said, if it wasn't for these cosplays. So, you know, the cosplays was definitely, for me at least, one of the biggest highlights of this trip overall. And I'm definitely looking forward to trying to go next year if I can. I want to thank you all guys for watching this video. You know, stay tuned for more content coming up. If you like what you saw, please rate, comment, subscribe. And if you did go to New York Comic Con, let me know in the comments below. So then I'll see you guys around.